Life and business can be easy, but us silly humans love getting in our own way. My name is Nico Rapclis, and I've had a wild journey. From releasing traumas that I held on to for decades, to playing college athletics, working with multi-million-dollar brands, having a spiritual awakening, and now coaching incredible humans navigate their inner and outer world. The Just Grow podcast is my outlet to share and help others with life and business. After investing north of $100,000 into my personal and professional development, the Woo plus Do formula is what has served me best. A healthy combination of mindset, energetics, consciousness, spirituality, self-healing, and discovery, matched with a high-level strategy, principles, focus, optimization, and accountability to help you be, do, and have everything that has been placed in your heart. This podcast is for the impact-driven entrepreneur that is finally ready to start thriving internally and externally. Welcome to Just Grow. Yo, what's up, my friend? My name is Nico Rapclis. I am the host of the Just Grow podcast, and we're so pumped to have you here for this particular episode with Danna Gift. Dawn has an incredible story on how she went from being a real estate agent to becoming an influencer and doing content creation full-time to now helping people with their relationships with her fiance. They have a cool brand called Happy Relationship that's combines humor, funny, comedy with also really profound teachings on how to become the most fulfilled, happy version of yourself and create an amazing, intimate relationship at the same time. So really powerful stuff. And she's also got a secret little project that she released on this episode that's going to be able to help women really overcome a challenge that so many women are faced with these days. So you're not going to want to miss a single second of this episode. Before we do jump in, I want to let you know about the Woo and Do framework. This is something that we've been cultivating over the last 3 years to help entrepreneurs really expand their impact, their fulfillment, and of course their revenue inside of their business by mastering the internal world as well as the external world. So you can learn all about that. We just created a brand new video. So go ahead and click the link down below, and then you can also join our Magnetic Manifesting School community where we dive deep into the Woo and Do framework on a consistent basis through our live calls. So go ahead and check that out. We got a lot of content courses and all of the cool things in there as well. But without further ado, let's jump in this interview with Danna Gift. It's Danna Gift.
Hello.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is, I definitely had thought about, because we've known each other for a while.
Yeah.
I thought about having you on the podcast before, but it just never truly aligned, and I feel like this is the perfect timing. So glad to have you.
I would have been a lot more insecure if you asked me 4 years ago. So I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, well, that's the journey we're all on.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I feel like I've had these thoughts before. Is like you get to a point where it's basically like usually teenager time when you just start getting really insecure, and then
Yes.
you're just on this journey to get more secure and confident within yourself.
Yeah, a lot of work needs to be done in between, but
Yeah.
it's a fun journey for sure.
Yeah. So why don't we jump into your story a little bit? Like, how did you get into the world of entrepreneurship, and what's your perspective on manifestation? And one thing that we talked about is we want to dive into the conversation about what does that look like from a masculine sense, and what does that look like from the more of the feminine sense in terms of manifesting?
Okay. Well, gosh, my journey into entrepreneurship was, I think I've always thought that I would be my own boss in a sense, but I didn't really know what that meant. Really, at the time when I was even thinking about doing anything on my own, I was more in it for the money, if I'm being super honest.
Yeah, most of us are when
Right?
we get started.
Yeah, we were just like, because I didn't want to have a cap on what I could do with my life, with how much income I could make. My first kind of really strong inkling was when I was a flight attendant. I was a flight attendant with American Airlines, and I remember, I was going through a divorce, I was competing in a fitness competition, I was going through so much stuff that I was just hyper stressed, and I also felt capped in what I could actually make on my day-to-day. I also realized I had to make a decent income since I was no longer going to be married anymore. So in the midst of that, I did a huge shift in my life, and I ended up buying a house out here in Phoenix, and I was still living in Chicago at the time, and I bought it on a whim thinking I would get a transfer as a flight attendant to Phoenix, and I could like ease my way into this move. literally 3 days later, after I closed on the house, I got a notice saying that they were no longer going to be accepting any more transfers for the foreseeable future. And so I was like, crap. I was like, I just bought a house out here. I'm basically going to have to commute from Chicago to Phoenix if I wanted this flight attendant job to work. So I was like, okay, well, what am I going to do? I ended up leaving my flight attendant job, leaving as in I took all of my sick leave for, I think it bought me like 2 months of me still getting paid.
Okay.
And I just left American Airlines and ended up pursuing real estate. And that was like my first step into something of an entrepreneur.
And that's Phoenix now?
Yes,
So
yeah.
you got the house.
I got the house.
And then you took 2 months of your
of my
leave
sick leave, yeah.
to figure it out.
To pursue real estate. Well, I figured it out within those 2 months that real estate was going to be the path I went. But that was also not an easy journey. I literally failed that real estate test 20 times before I actually got it on the 21st.
Wow.
Yeah, it was painful. I went through a lot of stress during that time. But yeah, I was like, what, am I stupid? I didn't get it. I'm also just not a great test taker, so regardless. Finally passed, and that was kind of the segue, I guess, into entrepreneurship. And from there, it was like I hit the ground running. I think I sold 2.5 million in my first year, which is a lot for me. And then pretty soon, after 2 years of real estate, I quickly realized that I was stressed. I was constantly running to different houses and selling, and I was actually even to the point where I was losing hair. I started to get so stressed out, I was losing hair. I had a cyst rupture in my ovaries. My body was like, it was declining. And so because of that, I decided that that real estate wasn't gonna be it for me anymore. And that's when I full went on to entrepreneurship with no brokerage, nothing, into content creation. And I took the savings that I had from those 2 years of real estate and worked on it full time into content creation, and didn't make a dime for the first 2 years, but my savings from real estate helped me, and then it started to finally pick up.
Well, a couple of things that I'm hearing, they're just like, looking at your story, that I find really cool is that you're very creative and I think creative is the word, where you're like, okay, how could I make this work?
Yeah.
In terms of like, okay, so I have 2 months of sick leave, I can figure it out in that time.
Yeah.
Right? And then I think the other thing that I'm noticing too is like it sounds like you always have a vision with what you start. And then because of that, you're determined and you're persistent. Because like most people would not take the real estate exam 4 times, let alone 10 times, like 20 times, right?
Yeah.
But the reason that you did it, I guess I'm assuming, but like you had a clear picture on, I'm gonna go and do this and I'm gonna sell a bunch of houses.
Yeah.
Right. And then even with content creation too, you're like, I didn't make any money for the first 2 years, but like I knew this is where I wanted to go. I had a clear picture of that.
Yeah. And I mean, yes, the vision absolutely was there, and I was always a very determined woman. But it's also, you get very creative too when your back is against the wall.
Yes.
You're like, you have to figure it out regardless. And my family isn't from here, they're from the Philippines, and when I was 18, they went back home. And I send them money, and it's like, I think it's a Filipino thing, I'm not entirely sure. But I didn't have anyone to help me. If I were to fall, I fall, and I have to stay on the ground for a bit. And so when my back's up against the wall, I mean, there's no way to go but up, really. So that was kind of, I've learned a lot of grit throughout my years, and if we dig into my history and my past, that's just part of my character at this point.
Yeah, and you were talking about how you got so stressed, and those were challenging times, and just like what you said, when your back is against the wall, like it never feels good in the moment because you are like it creates this stress within you, and you have this stress response, and sometimes your body takes a hit because of that.
Yeah.
Right? But like you said, it does like force you to figure things out and get creative.
Yeah.
And I feel like anytime I've had my back against the wall, I'm like, oh shit. But then I'm like, it almost feels like it's opened up these new pathways to be like, well, I can look at it like this.
Yes.
Do this. And it's like, you get so efficient with your time and energy because you don't have time to waste.
And I mean, you could choose to go on the defense and say, oh, woe is me, like life is really rough, now I have to go get a job because I didn't make it. Or you can see it as a beautiful lesson in life of, hey, I chose this, I want this better life, so what do I have to do to actually get there? What gold can I pick from this part of my life that may seem, like turmoil to other people? What part, you just really have to sift through the dirt and then find the gold and then pursue it. And there's really no better option than that.
And I think we could even continue this conversation at the tail end of it, but like just that trust, right? And knowing that this is the way it's supposed to go.
Yeah.
Right? And I think this is something that's really been calling to me lately. We even talked about it in our community call last night. But it's like we often get what we wanted. It just looks different. It's like
I was just thinking about that this morning.
Same gift, different wrapping.
Yes.
So if we can lose the attachment to how it looks, how it's wrapped, the packaging, knowing that the gift is coming.
Yeah.
Right? And I just, that's been the wave I've been on, is like this true surrender and trust, knowing it's playing out exactly the way it's supposed to.
Yeah. The surrender and the trust was the main focus I focused on earlier this year for 3 months. It took me I actually just took 3 months off of work completely. Wow. And because of how, and this is probably going to tie into the masculine and feminine. Perfect segue. But I was just so in my masculine that surrender and trust and faith was very difficult for me. And I consider myself a godly woman. And so surrender and faith is very much a part of pursuing God. But there's something different when you are saying that you can do that versus actually embodying it and feeling that feeling inside. So it was a difficult journey for me because I was so used to getting what I wanted. I do this because it wasn't, like you said, same gift, different wrapping. Yeah. By sheer force, by me constantly having to put in the work. And so surrender and faith it wasn't really fully existent to me at that time.
You were saying it, but you were forcing it.
Yeah.
So walk us through like some of these. I would love to hear any examples that you can recall of like the manifestations where you were in more of your masculine, and then I'd love to transition now where it's like you're more like just in a receivership.
Yeah, so I guess real estate is one of the perfect examples of what my manifestation brought me, which was probably one of the most successful points of my life as of now, but I'm hitting my next era again. But it was a very different approach of how I got those blessings versus now. Because now, like you said, I'm in a place of, I'm still doing the work, but I'm not pushing myself beyond my limit to the point where I'm degrading my being. So I will now my workflow is a lot different. I will work through passion and excitement and love. And then when I hit that threshold, because men and women are very different, we have a different capacity, I have to put a halt in it, and then I have to get back into my feminine, which is a very interesting place because our culture, society today tells us that we need to hustle like a man.
Yep.
But it's so different for women. We literally cannot, we physically, biologically cannot push ourselves the same way that men do. Like we have a certain level of testosterone that we all are kind of blessed with. You guys reset within 24 hours. We don't. We have a 28-day cycle. And so our testosterone, when we're depleted, we start to push that too far. Our body shows it and manifests it physically, and it doesn't look good. Yeah, it's a very, very different approach. It's a lot more, it requires a lot more awareness and slowing down. Yeah, so it's not the same whatsoever.
Yeah, well, even the fact that we are different, I think this is a universal, more so a universal truth. That, again, we talked about this last night, but it's like measuring your battery level. So if you're operating at a 5% battery level, a 1% battery level, like think about our phones. I don't know about you, but like when I get down to like a 1%, my phone's like bugging out.
Yeah, it freaks out.
Apps aren't working, like it's slowing down, right? And if we're operating at a 1%, a 5% battery level all the time, then it's just like we're not going to be at a good place. So whether that's on the man side or the masculine side more, where we cycle every day, our testosterone, our battery level goes back up, then we're at a better place when we're operating from that level. But if it's like with women with a 28-day cycle, it's just a different battery cycle.
Yeah, 100%.
And you have to cater to whatever the replenishing is of your battery.
Yeah, and it's important to note, like, yes, biology has a huge play on how we operate on our day-to-day, but it isn't the end-all be-all. I think the more we become aware of it and have grace with it, the more we can actually use it as a powerful tool versus trying to fight against it. So a big shift in what I've done as far as my manifestation days is actually cycle syncing it, meaning to say there are different phases within our 28-day cycle where we are more introspective, we are more in tune with our emotions and can think very deeply. That's our luteal phase. That's our phase right before, people call it our PMS phase, but I think that's such a negative way to think about it. Because if we actually slowed down during that time and took a step back and allowed ourselves to be in that more isolated introspective state, that's probably the best time we can actually manifest things more powerfully, because we are so in tune with our emotions. Now, are we a little bit more irritable? Like if Dylan comes up to me during that phase and I'm wanting to have my space, yeah, that happens. I get irritated because we have this, we're just deeply in tune with all the details of life during that phase. So there's different phases of our cycle that are just more powerful for manifestation days, and other days where we're just like, that's when we're where we can take action and go. So very, very different.
I just wanted to mention this because it's, as you were talking about that, it just reminded me of one of your things you posted recently, and you're like, bad things will happen. Laundry won't get done.
It's true. I made a video about Dylan trying to leave without giving me kisses, and I was threatening him with with not taking care of the household. But it's true, because he knows, like, when I'm in a certain area or a certain phase of my cycle, things around the house are just 10 times more clean and done. Everything's like I'm operating on 100%. Whereas different phase of my cycle, things might go a little astray.
Funny.
Relationships.
So coming, like, I guess even circling a little bit back to when you're talking about like real estate and then content creation, and coming back to like that, I was saying that's your vision, but I don't think you told me exactly what your perspective was it. But like, how does like getting clear on what you want play a factor on either or both sides?
Ooh, it's everything. Like, so I never operated in a space where I created the vision before and actually aimed for that goal. For the longest time, even with real estate, it was more of, how do we pick up the pieces that fell? So I was just figuring it out as I went. The reason why I stuck out the test for 20 times and failing it 20 times, was because I was in survival mode. I couldn't, yes, I wanted to pursue something bigger than what I was doing already, but I couldn't allow myself to fall. And so I was more so operating in a space of scarcity and survival, and I needed to make it work. Whereas when I went into content creation, that's when the future vision was a lot more clear. I realized that if I didn't put a target to hit, if I didn't have a map, how would I get there? So it was like, I forgot what it was. I think I read it in a book where he talks about if you don't have, it's the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, really, really good book. He talks about if you don't have a target, one tiny tweak in that is gonna bring you to a completely different place. So for example, he used the plane, which is perfect because I'm like, I was a flight attendant, it resonated really well with me. He said, if you were to change one tiny coordinate in your destination, you can end up in Chicago when you wanted to go to, I don't know, Texas or something, something random, right?
Yeah.
So it just really, really hit home with me that I needed to have a very clear vision or target, at least that I wanted to hit. But I quickly realized, like you said, same gift, different wrapping, that the way in which I got there was never clear, but instead just had to keep working towards that vision. Yeah, so that's when the full vision actually started to come into play. Did not turn out the way I wanted it to, but you know.
And I think it is interesting because I think in the early stage, again, coming back to like what we're talking about, like when you start out as a teenager, you're insecure and then you're getting secure. And I think when we start out, we are more motivated by like the pain and running away from things.
Yes, yeah.
But eventually you'll get to a point where it's like that. I always talk about that as like it's like this rocket fuel. Like think about like how a rocket takes off, and it's like this big propulsion. Right? I think about that's how like fear motivates us, or that scarcity motivates us. But eventually, like it wears and tears on the system.
Yeah.
And then you reach a point where it's like, all right, well, okay, what's the vision? Being pulled by something rather than being pushed away from something.
100%. Yeah. It feels so much better for your soul too to be operating in that space where you actually just want to achieve something because it you know that it brings you joy, it brings the people you love joy, versus before when you're operating out of fear, you're just doing it to protect yourself. You don't want to get hurt. So it's another way of kind of shielding yourself from actually receiving all of life's gifts.
Yeah. Well, I think this could be a good place to transition to your espresso now that we're talking a little bit more about your vision.
I love it. I'm excited. Yeah.
Cool. So to just give you a little bit of preface, there's an intro.
Okay.
And it'll ask you, what is your intention for the day? And just speak that out loud. And so that's the really powerful part about this. Like every day you're speaking out your intention.
I love that. Okay.
And then the second part is, what is one thing that you're grateful for?
Okay.
And so when it prompts you for each of those, just speak those out loud right now.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And then it'll do a little bit of a breath work, and then it'll lead right into your audio.
I love that. Okay.
Cool?
Sounds good.
All right. Here we go.
Now, before I hand you off to your highest self, I have 3 things for you. 1, what is your intention for today? Say it out loud.
To be powerful and magnetic throughout the day.
Good. Number 2, what is one thing you're grateful for right now? Say it out loud.
The relationships I hold in my life.
Awesome. Now 3, I want you to take 10 highly connected, highly conscious breaths.
Hey Donna, it's me. It's you. The future you. I'm so excited for you to get here, to see who you've become and all you've created. Yeah, the lush fairy tale wedding enveloped in love and greenery, the thriving $12,000 monthly income building to greater financial freedom, the globally influential podcast spreading your voice, the adored clothing line reflecting your unique style, the transformative women's retreats, and the blissful family life filled with love and faith, and all the lives you've had a massive impact on, especially your own. Donna, you're incredible. There's absolutely no one out there like you. And as you continued to listen to that vision audio from Nico, is when things really started to shift. Your journey was unfolding more beautifully than you could have ever imagined. Every morning in your dream home, you wake up next to the man you deeply love, bathed in soft morning light streaming through expansive windows. You start each day grounded in faith, spending precious hours in prayer and meditation, followed by immersing yourself in captivating books. This sacred morning routine nurtures your soul and sharpens your mind, setting a powerful foundation for the rest of your day. You take care of your body with a disciplined workout routine, followed by a skincare regimen that keeps your skin radiant. Breakfast is always nutritious, meticulously prepared from the freshest ingredients, a passion that ensures you hit all your macros with your prepped meals. Professionally, you shape a career that is not just about work, but a calling that fulfills you deeply. Leading a creative team, you direct your personal brand to new heights. Your weekly podcasts, where you feature as both host and guest, spread your influence and ideas globally. Brand collaborations pour in, and you meticulously choose who to partner with, ensuring they align with your vision and values. You remember how you envisioned your fairy tale wedding? It unfolded exactly as you dreamed. Lush green settings, intimate lighting, and heartfelt vows. It was a magical celebration, followed by a honeymoon in the Maldives, where you and your husband celebrated new beginnings in paradise. Financially, you thrive, consistently reaching and then surpassing your goal of $12,000 a month. This achievement isn't just about money, it's about creating a stable, abundant life that allows you to reinvest in your passions, support your loved ones, and contribute generously to the causes close to your heart. As time progresses, your influence only grows. Your women's retreats become the talk of the town, known for their empowering atmosphere and transformative experiences. You launch a clothing line that is instantly adored, reflecting your unique style and empowering message. Your lifestyle is the epitome of luxury and intention. Your mansion, with its large rooms and stunning views, is more than just a house. It's a home that reflects your success and your heart. You ensure that every piece of decor is a testament to your journey and taste. Your family life is blissful. Raising two beautiful children in a home filled with love and guided by faith is your greatest joy. Your relationship with your husband grows stronger every day, anchored in mutual respect and devotion. Donna, I love you. I love who you are. I love who you've always been. And I love who you're constantly becoming. Now get up and make it a great day.
Oh, that was so beautiful. I'm crying. That's how I know I'm back in my feminine, because I can actually allow these tears to flow.
Yeah.
That was beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm such a sap, guys.
That's a typical response, so.
Okay, well, I'm glad. That was beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Wow, how powerful. And I listen to this every morning. I feel like sometimes there are moments where I struggle to have the vision, where my head is just so clouded because of work and so many different things. But I think this is going to be so powerful, because I'll get to kind of mute out those outside voices and the things that are tugging away at my attention, and be able to focus in on what the actual goal is, what the vision is, what I want for my life. So thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
My heart.
You know, it's so, this is amazing, and this is like my life's work, and we're excited every time we get to create these, but to like see and feel and how that hits you is just really special for us. Because I think that, no matter who it is, like we all have those challenges. We get lost in the chaos of life and the doubts and the disbelief and where our subconscious has been programmed up to that point. And that's why we are so passionate about this. We typically have this subconscious story telling us we're not good enough or why we can't achieve this. But this rewrites that story, and the more that you listen to it, the more you believe it, because it's just like constantly penetrating that subconscious.
Yeah, I believe that, and it's just cool to even have this level of vision coming from where I came from. It's not easy growing up where I was. Like, you might not look at me now and think that I used to be a scrapper, but I used to get in fights all the time, bullied heavy. I actually left high school sophomore year because I was constantly getting bullied. It was too much. And that's where I started homeschooling and all of this, but it was not easy growing up. And so it's cool to even think that I could dream something so big for myself coming from where I came from. So thank you.
Yeah, well, thanks for sharing.
Of course.
There's another thing that we've been constantly talking about lately is, have you heard of the law of vibration?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's powerful.
So we continue to attract and create whatever our dominant vibration is, our dominant thoughts and our dominant vibration. And so it's like, okay, we talk about like the visualizations and the meditations and stuff, and it's like, okay, are you doing that for 5 minutes a day, and then you're going back to your regular program?
Yeah. Yeah.
Regular program. So it's whatever the dominant vibration is. So it's great if we have these tools, but if like we're constantly being snapped back into like fear, scarcity, and lack all the rest of the day, that's what we're creating.
Yeah.
And so what we've realized is that another metaphor we love drawing, and I think this is going to continue to be our marketing message as we continue to put this out, but it's like, it's kind of like a song, right? How would you, once you it's like memorizing a song. So that vibration is memorizing a song. So how would you go about memorizing a song if you wanted to like memorize that song quicker and easier? Would you memorize it one lyric at a time? Would you listen to it like a minute or two a day, or would you just be immersed in that thing?
Yeah.
And so that's what we're starting to realize is that like, yes, the protocol is to listen to this once a day, but I mean, for me, I mean, for the past few years, or I would say past few years, but the past, especially a few months, I listen to it like 3 to 4 times a day because it just shifts me into that energy every time I listen to it, and therefore I'm memorizing that song, or I'm memorizing that vibration more often. It's becoming more of my dominant vibration, and therefore that's what I'm pulling in and attracting. So again, that's why we're so passionate about it. This isn't just like a little audio, and it was interesting too, because it's like when we first started this and we're trying to explain this, people are like, oh, it's a cool little like audio or a video, like, and it's like our responsibility to figure out how do we communicate that this is not just an audio. It's, I mean, the going through the process of it is one thing, and then the actual like listening to it every day, it reprograms you on a level that's I've never seen.
100%. Yeah, you have to be able to feel that emotion of what you're trying to accomplish, because if you don't, like you said, you snap right back into your regularly scheduled program of scarcity and fear, and it puts a halt in the blessings that you could be receiving But this is great because it absolutely obviously stimulates those emotions within me. And I think that it's such a powerful thing to feel like you're living in your dream already, because that's what draws in that actual vision faster.
Mm-hmm. And it's like, here's the other thing too, I heard this recently, and we talk about this manifestation. I think it's interesting because, and I want to dive a little bit deeper and even hear like, what is your perspective on manifestation? But like, I heard this a while back and it really resonated. It's like taking the invisible and turning it into the visible.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I heard something recently that's really resonating with me, is that it's more so just the perception that the invisible is already real.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I was thinking about this too, is like, someone said something to me about like, oh, love the work that you're doing, and it kind of got me reflecting, like, what is this actual work that we're doing? And I sat with that for a little bit, and I think it's just showing people who they truly are. It's not even their potential.
Yeah.
Like, that's you. That's your highest self. That's what God wants for you.
Yeah.
That's what God's plan is for you. And it's just showing you who you are.
Yeah. I truly believe that. Manifestation is such a interesting thing. The first time I started even diving into the concept, it felt very, I guess, for lack of better terms, woo-woo, like everybody used to say.
Exactly.
It was just like, this is not really it. Like, you're telling me I could just say these things and it'll come true, which I actually realized that you can't actually just say these things, because you do have to take action to actually pursue and become that person. But this is a very powerful tool to help you to start to embody that highest version of yourself. It's a good way to actually put you in that place. Whereas before, I would just say these things. Like, I used to do, this is where I was getting it wrong for a minute. I used to just watch these YouTube videos and listen to affirmations and things of that nature, which is great if you're working out of a depression or something and you want to feel better about yourself. But it's nowhere near as powerful something like this, where you actually are creating the affirmations that are resonating with who you truly are. Big difference.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like, we talk about this a lot too, is it's the woo and the do.
Yeah.
Right?
I love that.
It's not one or the other.
Yeah.
Because I agree, like, it's freaking woo to just...
Yeah, people do that all the time. I am worthy. I'm like, but do you feel worthy?
I'm worthy.
Very true.
And then like the metaphor I always love drawing too, it's like the way I perceive like what is manifestation, it's the same way to just explain creation.
It is.
So it's like, think about a plant. How does a plant become a plant? You plant the seed, you nurture that seed with sunlight and water, and eventually it sprouts. Like, that's, at a simple level, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And so the seed is the thoughts. The nurturing is the emotions. So if you have the right thoughts, you have the right emotions, you're doing that consistently. It's not like you plant it one time and water it one time and then it sprouts.
Yeah.
It's a consistent process. And then final step is the more the do side, is the taking of the action, but it's inspired action. It's being in alignment with those actions, not just like grinding to those actions.
And I think what's cool about that metaphor too is, because I'm a plant girly myself,
Plant mom.
plant mama, is when you're planting those seeds, oftentimes there are roots that are still it's still being grounded, but you don't see it, the actual sprout of what you've planted for a little bit of time.
Yeah.
So that was something that I had to learn, because I'm like, where is my fruit?
Where is it? I planted this.
Yeah, I planted this 3 months ago. 3 months is not enough to do anything. Yeah.
I'd love to hear a little bit more about your ring.
This was my vision board ring. Actually, it was better than my vision board ring. What's funny is...
Why don't we just first publicly just congratulate you, because you just got engaged.
Thank you,
That's
thank
really
you.
exciting to your amazing fiance now.
Yeah,
So,
he's great.
yeah, so I just want to congratulate you for that, and I got to be somewhat a part of it. So
Yeah.
that was really a cool experience as well.
Yeah, I was happy you showed up. Yeah, so thank you, first of all. And as far as, yeah, this was part of my vision board. So I don't know if Dylan saw my vision board, which he probably has. But I had a ring that was basically this, but it was almost too sharp that I had on my vision board. And in my mind, I was thinking, like, this isn't the ring that I want. So I started looking for other rings, and none of them hit home. And it was funny because it was that weekend that I was like trying to change my mind. And that's when Dylan proposed with this ring, which was exactly what I had in my head, but couldn't find the pictures to create it. So it was, like you said, same gift, different packaging, but even better than I imagined. This was the ring that I wanted, I just couldn't find the picture. And so it's just, I feel like that happens often, actually. I shoot for one thing, and it might not be exactly that, but it's always better.
Right.
It's always better.
Yes.
Yeah, it's powerful.
Do you look at that very often?
I do. Sometimes it gets snagged on things, and I'm like, that's okay. I'm like, you're fine. I like polish it off.
Well, I saw a post a while back, and it said, whenever you get a no, it's not a no. It's either not yet, or I have something better. It's like God's talking to you and saying, not yet.
Yep.
Or I have something better that's coming.
Yep.
And
I truly believe that.
It sounds like that's the exact case, and I can reflect on that with my life too. It's like, it is kind of interesting to think we have that much control. Like with these tiny little speck of humans on this huge spinning rock in the middle of a galaxy. Like, you have that much power?
Yeah, you really think you got this? Okay. It's so true that the level of control we think we have is ridiculous, actually. But we try. I think it just brings us comfort when we think we can control these things, but I think the true comfort actually is realizing that we can't and surrendering it to the higher power.
Amen. I've been reading this book called what's it called? Untethered Soul.
That was like one of my bread and butter books.
Yeah.
It's so good.
I've read it, I've kind of like, I'd say like 1.5 times so far.
Yeah.
You know, kind of half read it one time and then actually read it. But this time it's just hitting, and like, it's really a commitment for me now and that's what he talks about in the book is he talks about like, you have to choose and make a commitment that you're going to like let go. Right? And historically speaking, it's been a challenge for me to like, I've held on to things that are not, like I look back at things that are like totally not serving me whatsoever, but still like, and the only reason that these people came in my life or that experience came in my life was just simply to teach me a lesson.
Yes.
And it's like now I'm firmly committing to it. And it was interesting because I was doing an Instagram Live and podcast earlier today, and this girl that I was doing it with, she just dropped a bar at the end, and she was talking about how the people that come into your life or the experiences, like it's ultimately just show you places in yourself where you have not forgiven yourself yet.
Yeah.
And so when I heard that, I was like, wow, like I look back and reflect on any of these like relationships or anything, like, oh, they came in my life to teach me a lesson, to show me to forgive myself more.
100%. And that's one thing that I love about relationships is how much you learn about yourself throughout them. Like if I go back to my ex-marriage, I can see that there were so many insecurities of myself, and that's part of the reason why it didn't work out. Of course, there's amongst other things, but like you said, it doesn't serve us to hold on to those things and point the finger at someone else. Because at the end of the day, even if I was right that it was his wrongdoing, how does that help me in the future? Except put me in a victim mindset and make me attached to why that didn't work out. Instead, I can choose to like sift through the gold, sift through the dirt, find the gold, and choose that this was part of my character building portion of my life. And now I'm so much better equipped for the future relationships that I have in my life. The level of detachment we need is what's going to serve us as we move forward through our life. Detachment from the results, detachment from those relationships that we desire. Sometimes I think there's been moments where I've got caught up in a fantasy of wanting a specific relationship to work, and when it didn't, it felt like God was telling me no, but not in a good way. It felt like he was against me. And it wasn't until I started to realize, like you said, it's working for you, everything's working in your favor to kind of evolve you because you asked for a better life. This is how you get there. You have to go through those struggles and those moments of turmoil so that you can learn. I think back, like, when was the last time I learned something monumental to my growth when everything was peaceful? Never, right? Like, if everything's perfect, why would you change anything? So it's until you have these moments where you're like, oh, that really hurt. But you could choose to stay down. You could say, okay, that hurt, but what can I learn? What tools can I gather and get on to the next one?
So good.
Yeah.
I think to kind of double down on that, I'm constantly reflecting. And, you know, I think, again, it kind of starts at this whole conversation we started at the beginning is like, after your beginning stages of like your 0 to 12 years, after your they talk about that, how your subconscious is basically like 95% cemented in by 12 years old.
Yeah.
And then honestly, like, this is just kind of like a download that's coming to me now, is like, that's when like the insecurities start coming in, when everything's all right. We got the system loaded in, boom, we're locked in. Now you start a life.
Yeah.
And you start as like insecure and not confident. And then what happens is you get all this experience.
Yeah.
And the more experience that you get, the more confidence you start building.
Yeah.
And most of the best experiences, the things that help you grow the most, are the painful ones. And I reflect on this a lot, is that like, as you go through those experiences, for me, I've been reflecting on the fact that like, this led to that. This painful experience led to this beautiful experience. Like, when I first started, not this podcast, but in fact, like, when I first showed it was a video at first.
I remember those, yeah.
I don't know if you knew this, but that was like the most tumultuous time of my life.
Really?
Yeah.
I couldn't tell. You held yourself well.
I got fired a week before that event.
Oh, wow.
And I was freaking out on stage. I'm like, this has to work.
Wow.
And then Britt's even talking about how like her getting fired was the biggest blessing of her life. And I'm like, what is going on right now?
Yeah.
And then like in that moment, like, and I have my own apartment. My roommate at the time had moved out, so I have this beautiful 2-bedroom apartment that I can't afford. And I'm like, what is going on? And I'm concerned about paying rent. And then I just say, all right, let's do it again. Coming back to like what you said, is like, in those times when your back's against the wall, you're forced to just like get creative and go and do, and you don't think, you just get after it.
Yeah.
And so I was like, all right, well, I don't have any other choice now. It's time to send it. Like, let's put this together the best way we can, and let's offer it and hope people want to buy it.
Yeah.
Right? And again, coming back to, you know, the different packaging, I launch it, and the first person that comes up to me, and what I had put in my video was that you attract dream clients. I didn't have a name for the company or offer or anything. It was like personal development clients.
Generic.
The first person that comes up to me, I don't know if you know him. He's the one that runs, or we do the pickleball days with.
I never got to meet him yet.
His name's James, and he runs a 7-figure marketing agency for law firms. And he became my first client.
Wow.
And then we've built this whole like friendship, and then we get to bring amazing community together, and it's helped me build out even more strong connections. And I tell that whole story because it's like that painful experience when I was like, oh my gosh, like getting fired. Like, they talk about getting fired and breakups and moving are like the 3 most emotionally turbulent things. And I was under so much stress in that moment. But then it was probably like a month ago when I was at the pickleball thing in this multi-million-dollar home and brought a bunch of amazing men together, and I'm just like, that pain led to this beauty. And the more that we can continually reflect and say like, this led to that, this led to that, this pain led to this beauty, it's like then you start looking at pain in a different lens, because you're like, well, if this is really painful and this is like not exactly the way I thought it would go, what's to come?
Yeah. That's something that Dylan and I kind of do, is we literally, if there's a story that we get stuck in that's a very negative story, we write it out for our fullest feeling. How do we feel about this? And then we pick apart the parts that we want to restructure and reprogram. So we'll literally rewrite the story. So this sentence says, I went broke. Okay, let's rewrite it. I had a moment where money wasn't in my bank account, but I received this, this, and this. And so like we go through each story of our life and rewrite it, rescript it.
Wow.
And if we're feeling like we're attached to that emotion, we go back to the rewrite of that story, and it reprograms our thoughts. So that's been super, super powerful for us, because there were definitely moments, like you said, I didn't even realize that was some of the most traumatic points, is going broke or losing a job, breaking up, and moving. Dylan and I went broke. Well, luckily we were together, or unluckily, I don't know. We went broke, and I had to sell my house because of how broke we were. And that was a lot. But it's funny though, because you think that the lesson is you would think like from an outside perspective that the lesson was to learn how to push forward and like get a new job maybe, or do something different. But my lesson for me during that time was I needed to actually learn how to let others help me. So it's a very different approach, because I was used to doing things on my own. And I think God was pulling away my money because I was relying on that to serve me. And it was like, you need to learn how to actually submit and surrender. And so that was hard, because that was like, I wasn't being called to do anything except sit back and let things happen for me. And that's hard. Because I'm like, you're telling me I can't move forward? I can't do this? Because every time I did, God would shut it down. It's like, this isn't for you.
Wow.
Yeah, very, very interesting times.
But again, coming back to what we talked, like different rapping.
Yeah.
Because I have to imagine, and we could probably end on this, and I'd love to hear what you're excited about with, content creation, happy relationship, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But it's like, I imagine that you wanted to find a loving relationship.
Yeah.
And you were just going about it in a way that you thought was right, but it's not what produced or actually brought that loving relationship in, and God was telling you, this is the way. And so it was what you were asking for, different rapping.
100%, yeah. I was like, I didn't realize it took this to get here, but okay.
All just learning. So I mean, Donna, thanks for being on. This was a really cool conversation, and it's cool to get to know you on a little bit deeper level. I don't think we've ever had too much one-on-one interaction, so
cool. Surprisingly not, but we see each other all the time. But we have a pretty big fan group, so yeah.
So why don't you dive into a little bit about Happy Relationship and your content creation, and then where can people find you, and what are you looking forward to?
So Happy Relationship is such a love and passion of mine that Dylan and I have finally launched a couples comedy meets coaching space, basically. We have a membership that people can join and learn all about relationships, including the one with themselves, and also how to show up as a powerful partner when they do find the one. It blew up pretty quickly. Within, I think, a week, we hit 50,000 followers, and I was like, oh, people like this stuff. Our bread and butter is kind of the red flag, green flags. People love that stuff. But it's growing. It's steadily growing. We're still in the process of solidifying the messaging in it as well. But so far, we have our calls every Monday, and they've been very impactful for the members who are already in it. So We have plans to grow that forever. It's going to be part of how we launch some of our couples retreats. We actually have intentional dating retreats that we want to do, and subscription boxes and all sorts of things that we're working on. So it's going to be it's a big vision, a big goal, but it's slowly moving. So that's good. And then as far as my own personal brand, I really just, for the longest time, I made content for myself, and just I wanted to make people laugh, and that's really all my two things. But now that I really think of it, I'm like, content, I think I'm done making it for me. I think I want to create for people to hear and resonate with the message, and we can bond together on the similar beliefs, and from there hopefully help people work through some of the things that I've worked through, which is, for me, learning how to release and surrender and stop being in my masculine, and learning how to fully embody femininity and what that looks like, and the strength of womanhood. And so for me, my direction personally is going to be, it's a course I'm building called Boss Babe Rehab.
Oh, wow. Okay, I like that.
Yeah. So it's I'm building it out.
Good.
Yeah, we need it. So yeah, it's going to be teaching women all about, what it was like to be in your masculine, why we stepped into it in the first place, how to soften into our femininity. Also things like hormones and things that are highly influential of how our mind really works. And it's going to be so good. Yeah. It's going to be very in-depth, and I just hope that it helps a lot of women out there to know how to soften and how to be a good partner when it comes to your future relationships, and really even other women as well, because when you're in your masculine, sisterhood doesn't come so easily as well. So there's so many different things, but that's what I'm working on.
Wow, that's exciting.
Yeah.
And you always come up with really cool names.
I'm a namer, that's for sure. I love picking out names.
And I think it's super important. I mean, Dylan and I have had some conversations around, because even I think it was more beginning stages before you guys fully launched Happy Relationship. He was like, am I going back to relationship coaching? I thought I was like, building these companies and whatnot. And I just told him, I was like, you're so good at it. And at the same time, the world needs it. I truly believe that probably the thing that is missing the most in the world today is the ability to connect and build relationships. And I think that's, again, what everybody wants. People want connection, people want relationships, but they forgot how to do it. And so for someone like you guys to build Happy Relationship, which is amazing, but then I think also you stepping into your power about helping boss babes rehab themselves, I think is big, because that really became a strong trend for so long of
oh my
I'm
gosh,
a man, I can do it all myself, and it just created this dissonance where I think for it's been a while, and I think it's starting to come back together, but I feel like men and women are just been kind of butting heads and not seeing eye to eye.
Yeah. And I mean, we've kind of always been, it's not that we are so against each other, it's just that we don't understand each other, and no one's taking the step forward to understand the other sex first, right? We think that you have to understand me first, you have to hear me out, and then we'll be able to get together. It's the complete opposite. We need to understand how you guys work so that we can know how to operate and speak to you in a way that you receive it. So it's just society likes to make us isolated and tells us that we don't need relationships in our lives, that we're fully independent, but it's a way to really break us apart and make us weaker. We're so much stronger when we know how to work with one another, and when we can speak to each other out of place of love and respect. We don't even have to like each other, but respecting each other. So relationships are just...
I think you hit it on the head there. It's we don't understand each other fully. And in order to understand each other, we have to communicate and connect and take the time to understand and see different points of views and see different perspectives.
And offer ourselves humility and be okay with that. It's okay to be wrong. there's so many things that I realized I was wrong. I'm like, oh, I was that woman, yes.
Like, oh yeah, there's everything.
Yeah, I'm like,
there it is. Oh, and that's, oh, yeah.
Look, if you don't look back at your past self and cringe a little bit,
Yeah,
then you
you're like,
haven't evolved.
oh,
Yeah, I'm like,
that guy?
oof, that was bad.
And one last thing I'll chime in on. I don't know if, I imagine you probably don't know this, but a pretty pivotal thing happened for me. I had a couple friends that came in and visited
Okay.
a few years back. It was when Dylan and Joey used to live up here as well. And one of my friends, he's African American, and one was Hispanic. The Hispanic one from LA, and then the one that's African American, Baltimore.
Okay.
And so I think I just messaged Dylan. I was like, hey, we're gonna come say what up real quick. And then I told my friend Brian, who was from Baltimore, I told him that both of them were ex-cops. And
okay.
immediately triggered.
Interesting.
He's like, oh no, I don't do that. Like, I'm good.
Dylan? Or who
No, my
was
friend.
Oh, he was triggered. Okay, got
He
it.
was triggered by, I was saying, let's go have a conversation. Let's go chat.
Got it,
He's
okay.
like, I don't like cops. No, I'm good.
Oh, wow,
And
yeah.
I was like, no, we're gonna do it. And we did it, and it was amazing because it was almost like the seedlings of the podcast too. And we went up there, and I like refereed it.
You're like, let me mitigate just in case.
And I was like, here's what we're gonna do here, is that I feel like there's some opposing views, and I want us to have a very respectful conversation here, and I just want us to understand each other.
Yeah.
And it was beautiful. Like, at the end of that conversation, there was so much like mutual respect.
Yeah.
And I've done that some other times too, but I think that's what's missing in the world, because everyone has their beliefs, the way they see the world, and they don't take the time to connect with people and see their point of view. Rather, they're just like waiting to talk,
Waiting to express
prove
their
their
own. Yeah.
to prove their point.
Yeah.
I think this happens a lot with politics too. Like, no one's actually like listening and talking. Everyone's just like yelling at each other.
Yeah. Yeah. Bunch of kids.
Yeah. So I think all that to be said is, like, I think it's beautiful what you guys are creating with Happy Relationship, and then this new venture that you're going into is just, it's ultimately helping people bring each other together.
That's our hope.
Yeah. Well, cool. Last question. I think it's a cool one. What would you love for people to get from this conversation that we had?
I think overall, it's kind of connected to how we are ending it, is that the relationships we hold in our life are so, so powerful, and the visualization and everything is absolutely necessary to get to your highest version of you, but let's not forget the relationships that we build along the way, because those relationships are what's going to make that ultimate goal that you achieve so much more meaningful, so much more fulfilling. We forget how much relationships actually impact our lives every day, who we work with, who we see, our brothers, our family, our intimate relationships, our friendships, all of that impacts us. And so many times we get so focused on this other goal that has nothing to do with our relationships, and we forget about the people who helped bring us to there. And so I think what I want people to realize is that the power you have is also the power you have within your relationships. Your relationships is your power.
That was beautiful.
Thank you.
It's a mic drop. Where can people find you? Websites or social
At
media?
Happy Relationship, it does end in a curse word. Or my own personal, which is Danna Gift. It's spelled Danna, D-A-N-N-A-G-I-F-T.
How many times do you have to do that on
All
a
the
weekly
time,
basis?
every time. I think every once in a while I get someone who says my name right. So
Yeah. I definitely was in that camp too.
yeah, it's
You're
okay.
like,
I had a
Danna.
friend who, yeah, Danna.
Okay.
People call me Danna. You know what? It depends on the day. I'm like, I'll accept Danna during the week, but on the weekends I want to be Donna.
Well, Donna, thank you so much for being on. This was a great conversation. Really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.